begged their confessors not to command them to approach the altar so frequently. Between these two extremes, however, the better way is that of humble resignation. But the boldness referred to is a thing that does great harm, and men may fear to be punished for such temerity. These persons, in taking communion, strive with every nerve to obtain some kind of sensible sweetness and pleasure, instead of humbly doing reverence and giving praise within themselves to God. And in such wise do they devote themselves to this, that they think, when they have received no pleasure or sweetness in the senses, that they have accomplished nothing at all. This is to judge God very unworthily. They have not realized that the least of the benefits which come from this most holy sacrament is that which concerns the senses, and that the invisible part of the grace that it bestows is much greater. For in order that they may look at it with the eyes of faith, God oftentimes withholds from them these other consolations and sweetnesses of sense. And thus they desire to feel and taste God as though he were comprehensible by them and accessible to them, not only in this, but likewise in other spiritual practices. All this is very great imperfection and completely opposed to the nature of God, since it is impurity in faith. These persons have the same defect as regards the practice of prayer, for they think that all the business of prayer consists in experiencing sensible pleasure and devotion, and they strive to obtain this by great effort, as they say, by the strength of their arms, wearying and fatiguing their faculties and their heads. And when they have not found this pleasure, they become greatly discouraged, thinking they have accomplished nothing. Through these efforts they lose true devotion and spirituality, which consist in perseverance, together with patience and humility and mistrust of themselves, that they may please God alone. For this reason, when they have once failed to find pleasure in this or some other exercise, they have great disinclination and repugnance to return to it, and at times they abandon it. They are, in fact, as we have said, like children who are not influenced by reason, and who act not from rational motives, but from inclination. Such persons expend all their effort in seeking spiritual pleasure and consolation. They never tire, therefore, of reading books, and they begin now one meditation, now another, in this pursuit of the pleasure which they desire to experience in the things of God. But God, very justly, wisely, and lovingly, denies it to them, for otherwise this spiritual gluttony and inordinate appetite would breed innumerable evils. It is therefore very fitting that they should enter into this dark night whereof we shall speak, that they may be purged from this childishness. These persons who are thus inclined to such pleasures have another very great imperfection, which is that they are very weak and remiss in journeying upon the hard road of the cross. For the soul that is given to sweetness naturally has its face set against all self-denial, which is devoid of sweetness. These persons have many other imperfections which arise from this, of which in time the Lord heals them by means of temptations, aridities, and other trials, all of which are part of the dark night. All these I will not treat further here, lest I become too lengthy. I will only say that spiritual temperance and sobriety lead to another and a very different temper, which is that of mortification, fear, and submission in all things. It thus becomes clear that the perfection and worth of things consists not in the multitude and pleasantness of one's actions, but in being able to deny oneself in them. This such persons must endeavor to compass, in so far as they may, until God is pleased to purify them indeed, by bringing them, or causing them to enter, into the dark night, to arrive at which I am hastening on with my account of these imperfections. End of chapter 6.